this session, we're going to focus on the digestive system. We're going to break up the digestive system into phases, types, and organs. The 5 basic phases are 1. Ingestion, which means entering and putting food inside the body. So you're entering inside the mouth, the food is going in the mouth. Number 2, propulsion or movement. So basically this is a mixing or a sloshing together of the food. This can be done by chewing or being pushed down or moving by the stomach or the esophagus. Make sure you know mastication is the chewing of the food, while peristalsis is the pushing down or the muscular squeezing, contraction, relaxation of the esophagus. And what the esophagus is going to be pushing down is this ball of food that's created by the teeth and the tongue, and that ball of food is called the bolus. Number 3, mechanical and chemical digestion. Mechanical refers to physical digestion. The food is just being cut or tore or put in smaller pieces, but it is still that same material, and that's done by the teeth or the tongue in some parts. Chemical digestion is going to be the breakdown of the food, breaking it down into different molecules or elements. So this is a chemical or enzymatic change. So the enzymes are breaking down the food. 4, absorption of the nutrients into the bloodstream. So this is going to be done by the villi or microvilli, and these are going to absorb the small molecules or elements that the different organs broke the food down into. Then we have 5, defecation, which means elimination of waste. So this is going to be getting rid of the feces or the poop. The types of digestion refer, as we said, mechanical or physical digestion and chemical digestion. Then we have the organs of the digestive system. We're going to kind of divide this into the alimentary canal. This is the pathway or the hollow opening or tube in which the food passes through. So not all organs of the digestive system are part of the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal consists of the mouth, the pharynx or throat, the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and anus. Now make sure you know that another name for the large intestine is the colon. The other organs that are not part of the alimentary canal could be referring to the salivary glands or the teeth, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, because the food doesn't pass through the salivary glands. The food doesn't pass through the liver, even though those things secrete enzymes into the mouth or into the small intestine. Those are part of the digestive system, but not part of the alimentary canal. We're going to be using this diagram in the future, specifically in preparation for your final assessment. So please look over this, be aware of some of these terms and names. We're going to perhaps use some of these as bonus questions on your upcoming quiz, but primarily all of this you'll need to know for your final assessment. Okay, let's talk about the mouth. We have 3 salivary glands, the parotid, the sublingual, and the submandibular. These 3 glands secrete enzymes to break apart food. Specifically, this is going to be salivary amylase, which is an enzyme that breaks apart carbohydrates. And as we learned, sensory organs from the nose, the eye, send signals to the brain, and this then sends a message or signal to the salivary glands to secrete the saliva. So many times when we see food, if you ever heard of Pavlov's dog, they put the food in front of the dog and the dog starts salivating because it saw the food. This response of seeing triggers the nerve response to secrete the saliva. Now we have the tongue. The tongue is primarily skeletal muscle. You can move it around left and right, up and down. It's consciously controlled, and it is covered with connective and epithelial tissue as well as a mucous membrane. So the tops of the papilla, some are keratinized, some are epithelial, some are connective tissue. Now make sure you know that the rear portion of the tongue is the root, The tip is the apex, and the central body is the middle. And this is what we're talking about when we describe the root. It's not necessarily the back of the tongue, but it's the back bottom or connection of the tongue to the body. Then we have the body and then apex or tip. And we did say the raised elevations on the tongue where there could be taste buds are called the papillae. And then we said that there's different tastes on the tongue that you've already seen and been aware of. And we've already talked about the bolus. But let's talk about the lingual frenulum. This attaches the tongue to the floor of the mouth and prevents the tongue moving backwards, so you don't want to choke on your tongue. And you can see that here, as well as on the right side, as well as you can see some of the salivary ducts. And then we have the filiform papillae, which are hair-like or thread-like. This covers the front 2/3 of the tongue. This does not contain taste buds. The fungiform papillae are going to be dome-like or mushroom-like, therefore that's why it's called fungiform. And these do have taste buds, and these taste buds are going to be located in areas kind of around or in front of and between the filiform papillae. The circumvallate papillae are dome-like, somewhat similar to the fungiform, but it's going to be a lot larger. These are going to be located more in the back. These have a large dome, but they also have a indentation or a fissure or valley surrounded around the dome. And as it goes down this dome, there may be taste buds and salivary glands. Now the folae papillae are going to be leaf-like, and these are bilateral, so they're on the sides of the tongue. And basically these will have taste buds on these papillae. Here you can see the circumvallate papillae in the back. You can also see some of the other papillae that are closer to the middle of the tongue. You can also see that on the right picture, the 4 types of papillae. We also see the epiglottis, which is the lid or covering of the trachea, so food doesn't go down the throat or the trachea to the lungs. You have the palatine tonsil, palate referring to the hard and soft palate, top or roof of the mouth, but the palatine tonsil is a lymph node. And we have the lingual tonsil, which is more closer to the tongue. Lingual referring to tongue. You can take a look at different colors of the tongue that are caused by abnormal conditions of the body that will change the color of the tongue. Then we have the teeth. Make sure you're aware of the difference between the child milk teeth, deciduous teeth, and the adult teeth. We have 4 types or basic types of teeth primarily found in the adult. The incisors, the canines, also known as the cuspids, the premolars or bicuspids, and then the molars. So for the incisors, these are primarily for biting. You have primarily in the adult, you'll have 4 top, 4 bottom, so a total of 8. Your canines are going to be your sharp teeth, your kind of your vampire or pointy dog teeth that tear or rip, tearing and ripping of meat. The premolars are not found in the child's teeth. These premolars are primarily found in the adult. So there's a total of 8 premolars. And then we have the molars, which there are 12 molars in the adult. Here we have the deciduous teeth because they fall out. These are the baby milk teeth. And then here we have the adult teeth, 32 total, versus the child's 20 teeth. You can see the general age in which the teeth come in, from 6 months old all the way to 2 years old. Then you have a break and the child starts losing the teeth, the baby teeth, and then you start getting the new teeth. They start coming in anywhere between 6 to even 25 years. But primarily, Your milk teeth are going to be coming in around that year period, while the adult teeth primarily between 8 to 12 years old. You can see the different structure of the roots, and you can see here that the tooth structure is divided into the crown, neck, and root. The crown, we can divide it up into the enamel, which is the outside covering, the dentin, and the pulp cavity. You can see that here the enamel is the hard white. This structure, depending on what you eat or drink, can turn a off-white and also can degrade based on having too much acidic foods or drink. The dentin, or British would say dentine, is a hard, dense, yellow material tissue, and this is underneath the enamel. This is actually harder than bone. This is actually harder than bone, even though it's made of a material that's similar to bone, which is of calcium and phosphorus. Then the pulp cavity, which runs down into the root or the root canal. This cavity contains nerves and blood vessels, bringing oxygen and nutrients to the tooth, and also relays information to the brain. Then you have the neck, and this is at the gum area, and then you have the root, which travels down and is attached to the bone. Now let's talk about the alimentary canal, and we'll get into more detail about the function of the digestive system in the alimentary canal, what enzymes and what does it do in the next chapter. But make sure you're aware of what we talked about on the first slide. You have the pathway, the mouth, esophagus or mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine or colon, and then you have the anus.